for geometry teachers. Today our screencast is over fractal geometry. We hope you learn as much as we did as we prepared this.
So where we see fractals in the real world, students can actually see fractals all around them all the time. An easy place to identify would be broccoli. The clouds are a fractal. Snowflakes, trees, mountains. Our parts of our body are actually good examples of fractals as well. Our lungs are fractal, and the neurons and synapses that our nervous system create are also fractals. But what is a fractal? A fractal can be thought of as a geometric pattern that is self-similar on many scales and levels that's created by a repeated process, like you can see on the right. We start with a basic triangle. That triangle is repeated multiple times over itself to create a more and more complex shape. Now, areas where fractals are used in the real life are medicine. We use fractals to detect cancer and cancer growth. When we are compressing images, creating antennas, and then financial side is you can also use fractals to identify patterns in the stock market that are repeated at different times to help make predictions.
So the history of fractal geometry, it did not get a name until 1975 when Benoit B. Mendenbrough released his first publication on the topic. Mathematicians and a handful of scientists and philosophers in the late 1800s to early 1900s, they didn't really favor fractal geometry or fractional dimensions at that time. So no one felt that it deserved a name, so they did not designate a name for one. It filled a void for how we can describe our mountains and clouds and coastlines today. These features we see in nature are not a part of your classical geometry, with circles, squares, straight lines, etc. The term fractal comes from the Latin verb fringere, which means to break. So back in that early 1800s time period, when they broke stones and it created irregularities in the stones. Christy Getz she created a video going over Sierpinski's triangle, which is a great classroom activity for you to use if you wanted to incorporate it into your class.
Hi, this is Christy Getz, and I want to talk to you about Sierpinski's triangle. This is a fractal that has a lot of different activities for students to do that are within their ability range and still share all the characteristics of a fractal that they can learn. First of all, you can see from these fractals that as you zoom in to one little portion of it, you see a carbon copy of the one that you really look at, which is really important. One of the coolest features that I see when I look at this is that this has a length of 1 and this one has a length of 2. And if you consider this one an area of 1, when you double the side, your area has tripled. So the dimensions of this are actually log base 2 of 3, which is about 1.585. And having a dimension that is not a whole number is new to most of the students, but you can clearly see here I can measure a length along the bottom, but if I try to measure a width, there's always a hole. So you cannot actually measure a second dimension. That's why it's going to be somewhere in between 1 and 2. One easy activity students can do is you can give them a copy of an equilateral triangle, or it doesn't have to be exactly equilateral, but if they find the midpoint of each side and then connect them, and I'm just freehanding this for you to get an idea, but you can either have them cut out or you can have them color in this triangle here. And that's one iteration for Sierpinski's triangle. I can do it again. And it's going to look self-similar. And once again, I'm going to color in or cut out the one that's in the middle. And you can do this as many times as you want. and make your own Sierpinski triangle, and it's fairly easy to do. Then one fun things for students is for them to partner up with a couple people and put their 3 Sierpinski triangles together, like this one, and this one, and they can put them together to make one bigger Sierpinski triangle. And then you can do this with the whole class and start combining them and end up with a whole wall full of a Sierpinski's triangle. And it makes something really cool. One final thing I've done with my students is that after I taught them Sierpinski's triangle, we made tetrahedron kites. Now, this tetrahedron is not exactly a Sierpinski's triangle, but it is a fractal because it doesn't have a solid length and width. It's definitely got holes. But if you do look at this side here, you can see Sierpinski's triangle modeled on that one side. And we made our kites with straws and kite string and tissue paper. And then we actually took them outside and flew them. And it was really fun. Kids thought it was great. I got some of my resources from Mathagon, but there are tons of resources out on the internet. And there's some that I have not even shared with you about Sierpinski's triangle. I wish I had more time.
All right, and then another one that we have, Trevor Whitaker created fractal geometry in the classroom as well, using Mathagon, which Christy briefly spoke about.
So now that we've talked about fractals a little bit and just kind of where it started at, a great way to be able to introduce this to especially student-wise and doing this in the classroom is actually using Mathagon. They have an entire section on fractals. So I kind of have it up right now where this is kind of more like a lesson-based type thing. So it gives like a great introduction where it introduces it first where we see it in nature. So we see it a lot of times in plants. And so a lot of times as they like go through, they'll see these kind of question marks like over here where we're talking about the broccoli. And so it asks students to analyze and kind of see, hey, you know, what do you notice if you were to start zooming in on this figure, what would it be? And so depending on the screen they have, they might be able to zoom in. But then they would click on that question mark box and it gives them a few different options. So they would say, what does it look like it is? And in this case, we see that it looks like a bunch of cones. And so then as they answer questions, it starts to add in more stuff for them to go over. And so like individual parts, they can highlight this different things. And Mathagon will actually highlight exactly what it's talking about. Like in this case, it's highlighting the individual parts it's talking about. So it provides them a whole bunch of different information, which then they will continue on. And it starts building this lesson more and more. So especially for those learners that, you know, maybe they're super fast or maybe they need a little bit more time, this is definitely a way more self-paced thing for each individual. Or if you wanted to have them in groups, like this, for example, talks about taking these different types of triangles and segments and lengthening them. And so we start with like this pink segment that has 2 more segments added on, and we are actually, and the kids are even able to actually move those blue dots like it says, and see how the length of that blue segment will affect the next set after. And in fact, they have this slider that they can move around, move up and move down. And so then on top of it, they can see once again how the different placement of the blue dots and also just where the slider is at, how that affects what's going on. And so then once again, as they start doing more and more, it'll start building up more information. And in this case, they could click on the fern, they could click on the tree, which the slider will move it for them, or a bunch of nested pentagons, and then they can continue on. And there's kind of that Sierpinski's triangle. There is a nice thing at the very bottom too. It doesn't automatically let them move on, but especially depending on if you're wanting to maybe skip a certain type of introduction or want them to do specific ones, you can always hit skip to the next step or even reveal everything after. So maybe at this point I want to start having my students move on to fractal dimensions. And so then at this point, it starts getting them used to seeing dimensions with a fractional dimension involved, which is kind of where the entire name comes up with it. And they move on to kind of the Cook snowflake and being able to once again build with the slider involved, and they will ask questions. It will give them, especially if they get it wrong, it'll give them a few options, and then it might give them the hint of, oh, hey, try this. But so otherwise though, Mathagon is a great place to be able to have kids even themselves doing the lesson, where you could be kind of walking around and asking questions to certain students who maybe some students get it right away while others maybe need a little bit more help and guidance. So this allows the students to self-guide it themselves. And then even after too, there's a bunch of different little activities too. Like this is just the introduction. They even talk about coastlines and how, depending on the ruler length that you have, the kids can see, oh, hey, the coastline is getting bigger and bigger depending on how it's measured. And so then off to the side, there's once again talking specifically about the triangle and the Mandelbrot set. There's even different actual like activities that students are able to do themselves. Like I'm going to go over to here. So they start talking about fractal tiles and being able to compare those sizes. So there's a bunch of different activities that one could do with fractals. And you have a really big wide range of what you have to do, especially if it's toward the end of the semester and you just want kind of a fun thing. So those are different activities, or Mathagon is a great place for being able to do fractals with your students.
All right, we hope you enjoyed this screencast over fractal geometry. And hopefully you can use fractal geometry in your class at some point. Thanks.